Hello! Can you guys hear me, and can you please give me a little thumbs up if I'm audible and everything's clear, or let me know if I have to turn off the AC so you hear me better. Please keep me updated. Oh, thank you, Dipti. Very, very sweet. I'm glad. I'm just gonna hang around for a little while and wait for, a couple people to join. Oh no, 2 of my dogs just got a squeaky toy. That might be fun. I hope they're not gonna squeak it. Alright. You know what? I think we're just gonna start now. Sorry for the fighting noises in the background. That's courtesy of Teddy and Heidi, my 2 blondies. Anyway, so I'm excited. Today we're gonna talk about transitioning your cat or dog to a better diet. We spoke about the basics of what a good diet is, according to me, or to science, or to all of us, I hope. So today I'm not going to talk all that much about what the diet should consist of, but rather focus on, kind of taking this knowledge about what is good to feed, and then how do I get that in my bowl, and how do I get comfortable with it, what is, how can we just get to the point where we feed our dogs and cats the way that we want to, now that we know how to do that. So I have my notes here, so excuse me if I'm looking down here a bit, not to get carried away and just blabber. So, transitioning. Let's start with the first and maybe most important question many might have: when is the right time? My answer is there is no right time. There's no wrong time either. So transitioning is good when you're ready to do it, when you feel like you've done your research, when you feel like you know and you want to go a better way, a different way with your pet's nutrition. That's a good time then. Beyond that, physically, the easiest time obviously is as young as possible. If you have a little puppy, then I would actually say if it's a couple months old, you can go cold turkey from dropping your bag of kibble and getting some fresh raw meat that can go within just one night. But that's a very, very difficult thing for older dogs. So for when to transition, it's never too late, it's never too early. A dog can eat fresh, or a cat can eat fresh food, fresh meat, the moment that they're weaned off, because obviously in nature, nobody comes up to them and says, hey, wait, you're weaned off, let me give you some processed food right here, and then in a little while you'll be ready to eat actual food. Like, that doesn't make sense. So, and scientifically there's no reasoning behind it. So anyway, the sooner the better. Transition your pet whenever you've done your research. Research obviously is essential for this, because you have to know what's happening with your pet in order to know how to deal with it. So I am, in spite of what I just said about puppies, I highly recommend to transition every other dog to better food, fresher food, slowly. There's a general rule that says, it's the rule of 4, that says, first step in your transition will be 25% of the bowl will be the new food, raw meat or home cooked meat, and then 75% in this early stage will be kibble or whatever you've been feeding before, and then you kind of work your way up. Once your dog or cat is fine with this ratio of new food and old food, then you can go to 50%, and then proceed, in 75% and then 100% with the new food. That's the general rule. As every general rule, it doesn't apply to every single individual dog or cat. So for transitioning slowly, just means make a small addition, make a small change to your dog's or cat's bowl, see how that goes. be very aware of how they react, how they usually are, every sign of their body, and also how they mentally are dealing with it. As you see them being normal, poop is fine, they're just the way that you know them, maybe just a little bit healthier, then you can move on to the next step. We're going to be talking about what these steps can be or should be, but just knowing this basic rule of adding a little bit, waiting until that's kind of the new normal, adding a little bit more until the old is forgotten is the easiest way to spare your dog or cat any kind of digestive upset when you are transitioning. If you did decide that your pet is ready to switch cold turkey, you can do that too. Like it's not going to kill anybody, it's not going to harm anybody, it's just going to be a lot of diarrhea probably if your pet takes a little while to get used to the new food. If you're wondering why would better food cause a reaction like diarrhea, why do we have to be careful if it's supposed to be so much better, then what's the reason that we're hearing so many warnings about going slow? So there's many reasons to that, but just logically, if you had eaten fried dough your entire life and then somebody gave you like a huge basket full of steamed broccoli and fresh mango, and you just enjoy that basket of freshness, which is definitely healthy, then you would probably having quite the stomach upset. So that doesn't mean that food is bad, it just means your stomach was not yet ready to get it at that kind of rate. That's also how, when you read studies about that raw meat is completely harmful or lethal for dogs and cats, studies like that, that kind of true in a way, like if you want to read them halfway from behind or something. What they do is they do studies on dogs that have been fed kibble their entire lives for decades maybe, or a decade, and then they're introduced to raw meat. There's differences between different kinds of proteins and stuff, but none of that is specified. It's just raw meat reaction in those dogs that's tested on is horrible. There can be serious harm because through the kibble feeding you're giving the dog like almost 80% starches in the food, and starches they can't digest. Starches become sugar in the body, and that feeds yeast, which makes for a lot of problems, among them that the lining of the stomach is not as tight as it's supposed to be because it's inflamed, so it can't be as tight and dense as should be. So stuff from the stomach can diffuse out into the bloodstream and thus cause a whole lot of issues. And that's what you see, what people talk about in studies that show the bad effects of raw meat. It's just, there's a big chunk of information that is not given. So if these dogs had been transitioned slowly, and if they had just been introduced part by part and piece by piece, then they wouldn't have had that reaction. Those dogs would have become healthier. And obviously that's not what we're going to be told by, the pet food companies who make those studies. But we should be aware of the fact that just keep it logical in your mind, why would every single species in the world that you've ever heard of be recommended to eat fresh food and the food that kind of they eat in nature or whatever, but then dogs and cats, oh dear God, no, don't give them anything natural? Like, how does that make sense? It's just, and there were dogs and cats before pet food, so how did they survive? Just try to keep in mind that there's always a lot of pieces of information that you're not getting, because whoever is giving you information is going to kind of spotlight that part that they want you to know or see or believe. So, do your research. It'll also make you more comfortable in making the choices for your diet, for your pet's diet. And stay reasonable. If your pet hasn't had fresh food so far and you give them fresh food, it might cause a reaction like mentioned, which will pass also, but it's you have to be aware of that. To make sure that your pet will actually take to the food that you're giving them new. I know that there's a lot of fussy cats and a lot of fussy dogs as well. Usually it's recommended to fast the animal about 24 hours before you introduce a major new thing to the diet. So even if you're transitioning slowly and you're going for the 25% or even less, then it's recommended to just fast your dog or your cat for 24 hours. I know it sounds horrible and they will probably show you puppy eyes like never before, but it's not that big a deal. It's perfectly fine and healthy. Many people do it like bi-monthly, like twice a month, to fast their pets for a day. It clears the intestines, and for our transitioning thing, it's good because it not only clears the intestinal lining, but it also, gets them hungry. So they are more likely to be interested in the new food. Most pets really enjoy seeing real food and like realize quickly this is good and I'm gonna eat it. But there's always pets who have been used to a certain kind of smell and taste, and don't forget that kibble and other processed foods, they're full of sugar, they're full of flavor and like all kinds of artificial stuff that's yummy. So there's just like we can get addicted to sugar a little bit, and then maybe an apple doesn't taste as well after you've had apple candy. Excuse me. After you've had apple candy, maybe the apple isn't going to taste that well. You just have to kind of get into that flavor again, and then after a while you won't want to go back to the apple candy, and you'll be like, my God, this is much sweeter actually and much better, and it's better for me. But you have to get there. So with animals, obviously, we have the advantage we can play with stuff. It's not forbidden to play with food. We can make it more high value by using it as a treat, like as a reward for something. I'm saying this for the first time today, but it's very important. Teddy is going mad, I'm sorry. I'm saying this for the first time today. Stick with your choices. So if you decided to switch the diet, then you have to stick to that for a while. And even if it's a little bit challenging in the beginning, that will pass and the benefits will come. So do not offer your dog or your cat other stuff because you feel bad for them if they don't want the new food. If they don't want the new food, then let them be hungry for a day. And there's no, animals starving in front of a food bowl. So just be a little bit, not forceful, but be very consistent in what you do, because you know what you're doing and you're, confident in that this is the right thing for your pet. If you have a kid, you're not gonna always give them the choice, like, do you want chocolate or do you want like lettuce? Obviously the kid is gonna go for the chocolate, and you're not a bad mom if you force them to eat greens. It's what you're supposed to do. It's why you're a mom, or a dad, sorry. That's what we're supposed to do with our kids, force them to be better. And then, they'll be great for one day, I guess, I don't know. Anyway, so please stick to your decision, and you'll be confident in your decision because you're doing research. Then again, stick to your choices when it's about reactions in your pet. So there's different reasons why the before mentioned reactions can happen. There's even more that can happen. It's not just diarrhea, not just the digestive tract that can be, having issues in a transition. It can also be itches or rashes that were maybe already a problem. They can come up more. And it's important to know why this is happening. And many issues flare up when you transition to a better diet, just because the body is detoxing. So if the skin is already having issues with toxins and, showing rashes and stuff like that, then giving like a fresh fish diet might cause them to become like super red spotted. And it might be super scary, and you'll be like, dear goodness, why did I ever do this? But it's a good thing, after all. Detoxing looks like an issue, but it's not, and it's short term, so that's why you have to stick to it. Another thing is, if your pet has a certain issue, especially, like for example, say your pet has a lot of skin issues, then of course you know that fish is great for the skin, so you're maybe gonna jump and say, okay, let me get a lot of fish in the diet right away. But here is another approach of kind of slow transitioning. Do not go for the protein in this case that would be the best match for the issue. Instead, maybe go via introducing turkey or beef or pork first, because since fish is so good for the skin, it'll even kind of emphasize those processes of detoxing, and that might cause the skin to react a lot more than if you would just go for, say, turkey, feed that a while, the skin will calm down a bit, then you move to fish, and then bam, dog is awesome, everything's good. Let me quickly check the questions before I get into more of my blabber. Best home remedies for a dog who has a weak tummy. Better diet. Well, it depends heavily, obviously, on the dog. An upset or weak tummy can have many reasons, but I'm going to speak about this a little later also. The stomach is insanely important for the health of our pets. The immune system and the stomach just is the heart, the stomach is the most important part of the body to keep healthy, because it just has such a direct effect on all kinds of parts of the body. If there's a weak tummy, you should definitely do something about it. If you feed kibble, maybe you can add some fresh stuff to that. Maybe you can play with supplements like probiotics, prebiotics, raw goat milk. You can get some green tripe, which is fantastic for digestion. Just look at your dog's diet and just, figure out what could be the problem. Just look at it and be like, okay, there's a weak tummy, but step back and check what might be the reason. Because I can give you kind of quick fixes or general stuff to get digestion better, but you have to sit down and be like, okay, this is probably not the best for my dog. Maybe I should switch that. Look at your own dog and try to just reason it out. Well, pros and cons of transitioning the diet. Obviously, transitioning always means going better, and I think that's it. You want to do the best that you can by your pets, because for once it's our responsibility, because we decided to take them into our home, so now we gotta deal with it and do the best that we can. And on the other hand, it's so rewarding, because you see something that you love so dearly or someone that you love so dearly thrive, and you see issues go away and you see happiness. It's just whatever you can do to get the food better, go and transition to that. Whatever it is, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's just about, if everybody did what they could, well, it would be a better place. So if we just did what we could to feed our dogs and cats better, that doesn't always have to be 100% raw, whole prey, whatnot diet. It can be many, many things. Well, the question about what is the best food for this breed or that breed, it's not about breeds. A Shih Tzu needs the same stuff that a Great Dane needs, and an Indie needs the same almost that a Persian cat needs. It's if we just look at our pets without the fluffy fur and all that, if we just look at the digestive system and the physical way that they're made, there's not much difference except for size and certain features. Anyway, the best diet is, in my opinion, always raw, fully raw. That's for me, and that's what I think should be or is perfect. But I completely understand that's not possible and not wanted by everybody. So the perfect diet, I can only say for me, is a raw food diet. It consists of high quality, fresh protein. It's a lot of muscle meat. It's a lot of chewing. It's a lot of big bones, small bones. It's a lot of variety. It's keeping my dogs happy and also wanting to take a nappy after food or play after food, because it makes them happy and tired to eat. And it makes me happy to see that. So I could say, for me it's raw. Anybody else, it doesn't have to be raw. Detoxifying, that's kind of a wide question. Like detoxifying, like let's talk liver and kidneys. Then of course feeding more vitamins is good, and feeding certain herbs like milk thistle is great. And like there's just, if you want to detox the organs and kind of get byproducts that's stored out, you can do several things. You can feed more vitamins and like more components of these organs to help them, renew themselves better. Or you can, fast them for a day again, just to get stuff out of the system. You can just help their immune system and their gut by feeding them basically high quality meat. Because that will obviously get the kidneys and liver to work more, because the more protein they get, the more they will work. That means you get the highest output and you get a high detoxing effect by feeding more high quality. It's kind of all connected, so it's a little bit difficult to say like this is good for detox. But fur is good for intestinal cleaning, fur and feathers. There's several ways you can go about it. Well, the best feed for strays, I think it depends heavily on what you can do, what your situation is. I mean, I'm in the lucky situation, I can, I have an office full of dog food, so I can just hand out everything. But I also have bought kibble before at a supermarket because I saw a dog on the, parking lot. It's like, any food is better than no food, so it can't always be perfect. I would say try to add fresh stuff, like get some eggs, just get a 24 tray of like free range eggs and hand those out with the kibble or something that you're giving. Try to maybe make connections with the butcher close by, like even if it's from stalls, which is I really don't like those, but the chickens there are being sold, and like that's a fact, and it's happening whether we like it or not. So if these stalls might have leftovers, I don't exactly know how it works, but go and talk to them and say like, what are you doing with the feed, what are you doing with the heads, or with I don't know what they're not using, and you can take it back and just dump it for your streeties. They'll be happy about that. Yeah, well, procuring raw food, I'm not aware of how to do that all over the country. I am aware that it's difficult all over the country, but in the metros we have, those deliveries that are quite good, I think, like Licious and Fresh to Home, and there's a few that say they're antibiotic free and stuff, so I would probably go for that if I just bought in small amounts. And if you are more on the rural side, I would probably just go and talk to the farmers around. Like that's what we did for our dogs, just go to the farmers and say like, hey, you've got some chickens there, they look happy and healthy, are you gonna kill them and can we have some? It's sad, but that way we got some fresh supply. Just get creative, like you can find stuff somehow, talk to other people, go to have forums, have networks where maybe if somebody finds something and says, hey, I have maybe my grandparents' farm has certain meat, and maybe you can have a WhatsApp group and a network where people say, I can get this like 50 kg, pick up your portion or whatever. Like organize yourself, like get creative, take this into your own hands. It's not an easy situation, it's not easy to feed well, but we all together, the more awareness and the more people need it and want it, the better it'll be. Freezing meat, yes, I would definitely recommend to do that, especially in the beginning. I am a careless dog mom who doesn't always freeze, but I know my dogs, I know it's fine for them. I've had all of my dogs since they were way younger than I should have had them, but obviously it was always an issue of a like emergency. Like Teddy's mom was just, you know, no more, and Coco's mom was also in a car accident, and Heidi, she just came to our gate all by herself, and nobody knows where she's from. So they were all with us at like 3 to 4 weeks old, and that's when I started feeding them raw meat basically. So I know what they are fine with, and I don't freeze meat, but it's generally something that is recommendable just to be very sure. You don't need to freeze it a few weeks. Like, if it's solidly frozen at like -18, 48 hours are good. A week is great, but you don't have to be too crazy about it. Okay, about our Canine India meals, obviously that's also something I forgot about that for the life. To transition to our food and to our meals, if you have a cat and you want to feed exclusively Canine India, that's totally possible, and just go slow, as always. I mean, and stick to one protein. I don't know if I mentioned that yet. If you are transitioning to new food, you really have to go kind of piece by piece. Like, if you start with, say, Canine India chicken meal or chicken breast or whatever, then stick to that one thing for a while. If there's reactions, you still stick to it. If your pet is not into it, you still stick to it. If everything's fine, you still stick to it. You do not get quicker. You do not go like, oh, super, like I just fed them, like I fed them a whole meal Canine India, everything's fine, I'm going to like literally go crazy and, feed only raw now, or only Canine India. That's not gonna work. It will mess up the thing. You have to go consistent. You have to just go very slow. A cat is a very, very small organism. Go with a spoon full of Canine India meal and take 2 spoons of kibble out of the bowl. See how they take to it, and then increase as you see them solidly doing well on it. Poop has to be nice and the way it's supposed to be. If they poop less, that's great. That's just because the better the food, the less waste. So the better the food, the less poop. Just go slow even with our food. Canine India is quite a nice step in between kibble, home cooked, and raw, because it's easier to digest than raw food, but it's kind of got the same nutrition. So if you're a little bit weary about raw food, you could get some chicken feet from us. You try them, everything's fine, then you can probably try like a frozen chicken foot raw also. So if you just want to get kind of used to the feel and like what it's like handling stuff that looks a little bit weird maybe, then Canine India can be a step in between, or you can use it as whole meals if you want to stick to our complete meal options, which are already with organ and bone. So you wouldn't have to take care of that. So for pets that have issues, like health issues, of course it's kind of a thing, like, do I harm the dog or the cat if I go and challenge their body even more when they're already struggling with something? Especially kidney and liver issues, I have to say, do it. Like, it might be straining, it might be exhausting for you and the pet, but ultimately it's gonna heal them, like, all the way, and not just beat some symptoms that will still swell underground if there's no medication. So I would say for a dog with renal and liver issues, go extremely slow. Keep an exact eye on what you're feeding. Like, every reaction should, you should kind of see, not to freak out about, just like to know everything's happening, but it will be like medication, just better, because there's no side effects. So I think that if you feed more protein, probably as opposed to what your vet told you, you will be able to get rid of medication and all that in a reasonable amount of time. So do it, please. bones best introduced. So first, if you haven't eaten anything raw before, because bones always have to be raw, obviously. If you haven't had anything raw, I would prefer sticking to some meat first. So like maybe some mutton meat or chicken meat or whatever it is. If you only are looking at bones and you'd only want Leia to chew, then she's been having our chews and our food. I think excuse me, that you could easily go and try a chicken foot soaked in hot water, or a chicken foot frozen, or you could get a mutton leg bone or something like a lamb shank, soak it in hot water or freeze it. Both work. I think it's just up to you. You know Leia, you know what she excuse me, the AC air. Anyway, so you know what she's been having and how she's doing with things. I think she'd do well with any raw bone, basically. Just feed it in the morning so that you can monitor her during the day. That's always my favorite thing for new introductions. Do it in the morning when you're going to be with them during the day, just so you can see anything that happens. Dehydrated versus raw, not a big difference. It's just the water removed, and then little bit of nutrition gets lost, like anything between 0.1 and 2%. It's almost the same. It's just water weight removed. It's never boiled or cooked. So only at 100 degrees when the protein denaturalizes. If we have more fragile proteins like seafood, we'll just turn the heat down even lower. It's not a big difference. The hardest chew, a crocodile at home. Well, in general, it depends again on the dog, how they chew and stuff, but I would always go for a very dense beef bone. I know not everybody is into beef, but it's just, given the resources we have here and the proteins we can source, beef is just the biggest animal, and it gives you the biggest and most dense chews. That's just the way it is, from the skin to the hubs, whatever it is. It's just the neck. A lamb neck is a really nice big chew, but you'll get through it as a golden retriever or a Great Dane or whatever in 2 to 3 times. The beef neck is basically impossible to chew down, so I would just say, any big beef bone. Raw and dehydrated products. Well, raw products, obviously in the, just like normal meat, like in the fridge, I wouldn't do much longer than 2 to 3 days. In the freezer, it can basically grow old because your dogs don't care about freeze burn and stuff like that. So dehydrated products, you can keep them like for long times. I don't want to recommend like a year or something at room temp, but I have my trial bags of treats that I've had for like insane amount of time. Like I am looking at the pouches, I'm like, why are you still fresh? Like this is weird. But just removing the water and keeping it airtight, it keeps stuff fresh, unless you have chews that are drooled on, that have already been chewed on a little bit. When there's moisture, I would say either wrap it in a cloth, can still leave it at room temp, or put it in the fridge in a Ziploc, and you're good. Bones safe for dogs to ingest? Yes. Well, this again, like a myth about bones. Bones will not damage intestines or block the liver, or there's like all kinds of crap out there about bones. Like, why is every single dog treat shaped in bone form if bones are so bad for dogs? Like, I'm not annoyed at you, I'm just annoyed at why do they make us believe that bones are bad for dogs, and then at the same time, like, even cartoon dogs have their bones around their neck. Like, yeah, dogs eat bones, but they don't eat them cooked. Like, so the thing that can happen is when you feed a cooked bone, that the bone splinters and comes apart unnaturally. So that can leave sharp edges, and that can actually damage, the dog's intestinal lining or something. But that's just why we do not feed any cooked bones. Raw bones are very much digestible. Actually, this one is just eating a raw bone very, very happily as part of her dinner. So dogs cannot move their jaw sideways. Dogs don't have flat teeth. Like, it's very different from us humans. Dogs are not supposed to grind food. Dogs digest very differently. A human, we develop a protein in our saliva when we eat that starts breaking down the stuff we eat. That's why we can digest vegetables and stuff. Dogs, on the other hand, they just have this drool because they need to make sure there's some lubricant to get sharp bits and bones and stuff down their throat without any obstacle, and then it gets digested very quickly in a very, very hostile stomach environment. That's why we try to stay away from starches and from kibble and rice, because those things make the stomach lining leaky, and then this hostile stuff that's in the stomach that's supposed to stay in there and take care of raw meat and bacteria and stuff like that, that can diffuse out of a damaged stomach, and that's when it gets dangerous. But bones are not going to cut the stomach or block it or anything. If your dog gobbles and eats too big of a piece of bone, they might vomit it out. They might try to eat it again also. For dogs, it's more of a function to throw up. It's not like for us where we're miserable. Dog just throws up and is like, okay, cool, let me try again, and eats it again. Another thing can be that it just comes out the back the same way that the dog gobbled it up. And that's the end of the story. Like, it's still obviously good to monitor your pet because freak accidents can happen, and but it's definitely completely 100% safe and meant for dogs to eat bones fully and whole, even if it looks very scary. Yeah, Canine, you're exactly right. Fur and feathers, how often to be fed? Well, it depends on the diet in general and on how your dog is doing, but if you feel like the anal glands are full, then a furry chew or like a feathery something can help just, squeeze it out, get rid of it, and you don't need to go to the vet and you don't have all those consequences. Then just if you feel like it's about time, like maybe 3 to 4 times a year, you just maybe do a fast, and before you fast you give them some fur so that everything's cleared out. A fast, and then on to healthier times. Just like for us people, some people like to do cleanses all the time, other people are good without it. Every now and then is always good, especially for the anal glands. Ooh. Wow, congratulations, Lyra. For post-pregnancy, I think most important is just to feed them as much as they want and as high quality as possible, so that the mother's milk is as powerful and as nutrient rich as possible. If you're talking supplements from Canine, I would probably say that goat dust would be cool because it's got the goat and camel milk. It depends on the diet. I'm sorry, like all of my answers are like, depends on the diet, depends on the diet. But like that's what it kind of is. Like if you feed her fresh fish already, then I wouldn't recommend a supplement in that direction or something. Just make sure that the general diet is as healthy and as high quality as possible. And then good luck with the little ones. 6-month puppy as a starter. A starter bone for a 6-month-old puppy. Did I mention it depends? So it depends obviously on the size of the dog and all kinds of things, but I would say if it depends more on, is it a vigorous chewer or is it a dog that maybe is more into meaty stuff. If your dog really, really likes to chew and is ruining furniture and stuff, then I go for a hard chew right away, because it's good to start with big chews right away as well, like as early as possible, because chewing releases endorphins for dogs. So they get kind of high and happy when they chew. That's why they're tired afterwards. That's why they do the work. You know, it's a lot of work to chew. So it just like they get rewarded really well. And that's why they're also thirsty afterwards. It's basically like if you have like a really nice big beer, and then afterwards you kind of like relax, happy, and you need a glass of water. Same thing when they chew, just there's no negative side effects. Lucky dogs. So just go for a mutton bone or whatever you can get, or like if you want to go raw, you can do that with a puppy. If you want to get it from Canine India, anything's fine. I think I would again go for like cow skin or beef neck, just something hard and big where you can spend weeks and weeks with it without having to, you know, buying more stuff. It also, those big chews that wear down slowly, they don't fill them up so much. So you just have, you know, a long-term no fuss chew. So I would probably go for something big for a puppy, and then for something that's a little bit more filling that you can give as a snack, like a quail or goat testes or something. Well, if your dog hates seafood, it doesn't necessarily mean that they hate, you know, other fish stuff. Like we have we have dogs or cats who hate mackerel but love anchovy, or don't like octopus but absolutely love prawn. You know, just try to find a fish that your pet likes. Try to be consistent with it, stick with it, keep adding it in the bowl. If they don't take to it, it keeps reappearing until it's gone, kind of. Mix it with other stuff, make it interesting, and try to go for whole fish, because it's just better than supplements. I mean, our omega-3 powder is only whole fish, but I think it's nice if you can also prepare fish yourself that your dog will eat. So I will keep trying, and if it doesn't work, maybe you can feed some dehydrated fish from us, and then maybe your little one will get into the taste of fish. Like, just, you know, try to come up with ideas. Just be creative and try to read your dog and trick them as much as you can. Scratching ears. Yes, for ear itches and infections and stuff, they're going mad. What is this? Sorry. They're completely going nuts because they just ate and now they're very happy. Okay, sorry. Scratching the ears, yeah. Ear infections and stuff like that I'll talk about. I have a little bit something else to say. I would just yeah, raw marrow bones can be frozen. Everything can be frozen after a chewing session and then given back, as long as it's still fresh. Like, as long as the stuff still looks good, you can keep giving it back. The transition process, when you go from chicken to mutton. So if you add another protein, I think you can go a lot quicker. You could try to just, you know, add mutton and see how it goes. Worst that could happen would be a little bit of loosies and stuff, but I would go slow with mutton. Additionally, I would go first mutton meat, then some bone, and then organ, so that if you always wait until the one component is fine with him now, then you can move to the next, you know, once they're fine with meat, then to the bone, then to the liver, and then you kind of got to check under the whole protein mutton, and you know that each and every part is fine. So that's how I would do that. Well, for the calorie requirement, instead of the body weight approach for how much to feed in a day, I go by body weight. I say 2 to 3% of the body weight should be fed daily. I do not go by calories because, for me, it's most about a general rule. Like, the 2 to 3% are general rule, but so would a caloric requirements general be. Like, I give my dogs a basic amount that's kind of right, and then I adapt it as I see them. As I see this one, is maybe getting heavier, or this one isn't eating his bowl up, or this one's always hungry. So I think that I would not go through the work of doing the caloric values for each diet, because I think that we don't need guidelines that strict. We need more gut feeling in the diet, if it's up to me. So I understand and I appreciate people who do the caloric approach, but in my opinion, I'm a little bit more into just reacting and going with the flow of what my puppies show. Feathers and fur. Yeah, well, we talked about it quickly. Feathers and fur are just great for detoxing, for anal glands. There's manganese, it helps the nutrient absorption. Like, it's just good to give every single part of an animal that you can find at some point in the diet. Like, whether it's like disgusting stuff like testicles or eyes, or like my dogs even have whole goat heads, including teeth. It's every single piece that you find in a prey animal is consumable and has its purpose. Like, nature doesn't waste. Nature doesn't go like, oh, let's like put this here and then I don't know why we did that. Like, nature has a purpose for every single thing, which is why you can always figure your dog out so well. If you know what nature's trying to do, you just always have to match it. So fur and feather is always good. Yeah. Payment issues. Let's stick to transitioning for now and do payment issue another time. Bones always good for dogs in every way, especially puppies need a lot of bones. Then raw or cooked for starters. Well, I'm for raw because that's just the natural way, that's how it's supposed to be. To me, it depends on your situation, but I would go through cooked or dehydrated, which you could do kind of cold turkey. But if you move to raw, I think it should be very, very slow, which could either be through home cooked and then raw, or it could be a slow, immediate transition to raw. That's up to you. I want to say one more thing about, because you asked about ear infections and stuff. I've been getting a lot of questions about allergies recently and food intolerances, and also in the comments to the post we had some questions about allergies and intolerances, and this is very, very important to me. Most allergy medication won't help your pet. Like, in most cases, the medications that we get from the doctor or from the vet, they just don't help. They just they just make the symptom go away, but they do not fight the root cause of a certain issue. So allergy medication usually will be really bad for the dog's immune system, because an allergy basically means that your dog's body is reacting to something that it shouldn't react to. So the body is kind of attacking cells that it's not supposed to attack, and that causes issues. So if you give allergy drugs, then those will just inhibit the reaction. The immune system will not attack those cells anymore. But the immune system will also do nothing else. So you're basically, by giving allergy medication, you're just killing the whole immune system, and you're not helping what's lying underneath and what's actually causing, for example, a skin issue or an ear itch or something like that. Prescription diets, similar, they just make for more for more inflammation, because they're super high in starches and they sure don't help, especially if it's kibble. Allergies mostly come from the wrong diet. Byproduct of the food that we eat or that our dogs or cats eat, the byproduct, what's not used, is flushed out through kidneys and liver, right? So whatever, the better the stuff is that you eat. Like, say you feed your dog a piece of like grade A beef fillet, and they eat it, there will be very little byproduct that has to be flushed out by the kidneys and liver. You give them kibble, there's endless amounts of toxins and crap that has to be filtered out. So there will be lots of byproducts that have to go through kidneys and liver. They might get overworked, and because they're getting low protein intake also with kibble. So then these byproducts will kind of be stored in the organs. This over time, as they build up, will cause lots of problems. Because of that, other organs will try to pick up the work that the kidneys and liver can't do anymore because it's too much. So the biggest organ we have and our pets have is our skin. So then, as the skin is trying to flush out toxins and flush out byproducts and stuff that's not supposed to be there, then you get itches, you get heat boils, you get all kinds of rashes that you can't explain. And then when you go to the vet and the vet says, hey, yeah, okay, that's an allergy, we'll give you steroids. Then those steroids are going to completely ruin the immune system. Your dog is not going to itch anymore, but it's also not going to live very long. And I'm sorry to be so drastic, but I've heard this a couple of times in the recent time, and it's just disturbing. Allergies have to be fought by a better diet, and then they will go away, and then you can feed whatever the pet was allergic against again. Allergies are fleeting in our pets. They are not forever. It's not like genetic or something. It's just an inflammation and overwork issue. It's most of the issues, that's just one thing we have to understand, most of the issues that we face with our pets stem from a not healthy gut environment. So the best thing we can do for every single issue, whether it's the eyes, the heart, the kidneys, whatever it is, just feed fresher and feed the highest quality and the best you can, no matter how much effort it is. Because I swear to God, it's more effort to carry your 35 kg Labrador to the vet every other week than it is to source some duck. We have to go that extra mile, and then we have to fight it out in transitioning, because once you know better, you owe it to your pet to do better. And it doesn't have to be pricey, and it doesn't have to be a big deal. And I know there's so many things here, like sensitivities about certain meats and availability of meats and families, and it's easy for me to say oh, you have to do better, but try small steps in any way you can. And don't let other people tell you what's good and what's not good enough. Just try to do a little better by your pet every day, and you'll get there. And transition slow. Listen to research and science, and not to something somebody said on some Instagram comment. And try to feed your dog's gut and your cat's gut, which means high quality protein meat. And also, let me know if there's anything else pressing. Oh, I think I missed a lot of stuff. Oopsie. Yes, frozen or thawed raw fish. Yes, please feed raw fish whole. That's fantastic and healthy and the best way, completely balanced the way it is. Yes, even if your dogs are old, small, slow steps and slow quantities, it's never too late to get better. Yeah, just keep going slow if your dog is fussy, and keep going. It's great to offer a variety of proteins. It's important to offer a variety of proteins. All the nutrition from different proteins is different, so it's very important to balance those. You need to help your dog's gut. For allergies, I'm reading here again. Chicken to buff didn't help. You have to work on getting the stomach as healthy as possible. You have to get digestive enzymes, prebiotics, probiotics, green tribe. Try to help the gut, and the allergies will be helped. Protein be changed. 3 to 4 proteins, a basic staple in the diet. You can feed in one meal. You can feed them balanced over longer time as fits well for you. But 3 to 4 proteins in constant switch, I would say. Indies are absolutely beautiful and fantastic and amazing, and I love that you adopted one. And yes, economical ways to feed a species appropriate diet. I know it's not perfect, but whatever you can find, even if it's from a stall. I mean, maybe you can ask them, hey, do you have like country chicken? Can you get it to me? Like, maybe you can talk to them. If you say like, I'll get like a whole chicken, but if you could like get the chicken in, I know this is a little naive, but maybe you can ask them, get them in a bigger cage, or maybe you can like somehow find a way to just find some like chicken feed for chews. Find some, even if you want to go Canine India, like you can get cow skin chews, like 25 pieces for like 1.1k. That will last you like 3 months of chewing. Like there's lots of ways, just like I've seen on some of the deliveries like fresh to home that they offer the fish heads and stuff for stock making. Get the fish heads, feed them to your dog. Like try to hunt for stuff wherever you can get it. If you see duck eggs, get them. Try to do as good as you can, and a good diet is cheaper than a bad diet in the end. I promise. Okay, I think I've got to hang up because the hour is getting over. I hope you guys like this, and I hope that it was informative in some ways. Please let me know what we should do next, and have a beautiful evening. Thank you very much for listening. Bye-bye.